Okay, so we're going to go over some of the basic tools that you often see in the cauldron grabs and just in witchcraft. So the first one we're going to go over is bowls. Very simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be rose quartz. Anywho, so it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be rose quartz. But what bowls are used for oftentimes are you can use it to add salt to bring about the element earth, because when you're doing spell work, in certain practices and certain crafts, depending on your craft, you want to have the 4 elements present. So you'll have one with salt, one with water, and then of course your air is going to be like incense, so you wouldn't use a bowl for that. But you would use it also for libations. So that's just pretty much whenever, same thing you would use a chalice for, and we'll get into that later. You leave it as offerings, rather that be juice or alcohol or whatever it may be, for gods or goddesses or even your ancestors. So that's just kind of how you use bowls in the craft and why bowls are used. You can also have bowls for other reasons. Obviously, you can have bowls around to hold your herb mixtures. You can even so much as in have correspondences for different, like I like to use my rose quartz bowl when I'm doing my self-love salt mix. Because it adds that correspondence of self-love and glamour. So you can double correspondences in that way, just a side tip. So another basic tool that you'll see in the craft is a altar broom. These are also known as besoms, just again, depending on your sect and your craft, what you're going to call it. But altar broom is what I'm going to stick with. And this represents the element air. So I had discussed how incense can represent the element air. You can also use the altar broom to represent the element air. And you just do this to cleanse your area and your space, rather that be before you're about to do spell work, if you have ritual work and you want to cleanse your area, you just, or your rooms, just like some people can't handle incense smoke. If you can't, this is a great alternative for cleansing your space. You go throughout the house the same way you would if you had a smudge stick. So that's what the altar broom is for. You also use it in different rituals. You'll see bigger brooms and things like wedding rituals, jumping the broom to unify the bride and the groom, or the bride and the bride, whoever, new age, whomever it may be that's getting married, partners. So they can be used in that way. They can also be used to seal doorways. So you can sweep doorways to seal them. You can also sweep to cleanse, sweep out to banish things out of your home, and you can sweep things from the door in to bring in things to your home, like prosperity, abundance. So brooms are used in that way. The basic tool of the craft is the altar bell. So again, this is another cleansing tool, but this is also a banishment tool. So these can be used to banish entities and energies out of your space and out of your home, out of your ritual area. And depending on your sect of witchcraft, this can also be it can also be believed that these call upon the Fae. So this draws the Fae to your area, or your altar space, or if you have like a Fae garden, if you're trying to call them there. It just depends on your belief. It is considered a symbol of force. So again, it being a symbol of force, meaning it is a symbol of banishment. So you can ring this around your area to cleanse it. Again, if you're not good with smoke cleansing, you're not a smoke person, you don't like incense, this is another great alternative you can use instead of smoke cleansing. So very pretty. This one's my lapis one. Next up is the Athame, is how it is spelled. I like to rage bait you guys sometimes with saying that, but they are spelled Athame. but they are said Athame. And these are the two I have. So these can be a symbol of either the element air or fire, depending on your sect and your practice. It is said air because of the sound that a sword makes when it's cutting through the air. And it is said fire because the typical Athame, Athame is forged in fire. Now, typically they are said to be a metal double-edged blade, but adapted into modern witchcraft, it can be any blade. It can be a kitchen knife. You just have to consecrate it and use it only in your ritual practices. So you don't use it for cutting or mundane things. It is only used for directing power. So these can be used like a wand. You point it and direct it at your spell work, and you're directing your intention and your power through the tip of it. Okay, so now in rituals, these can also be used to open or close your circle, just like a wand can be used to open or close your circle. And we're not really going to discuss that here. We'll have a whole video on how you open and close circles, but that is another way these can be used. Sometimes people like to use these if they're doing baneful practices. Again, we're not going to touch too much into that. To either stab. I don't personally, my practice, do that. I use something called a bolline, and that can be debated on what a bolline is, because usually it is, or originally, traditionally, it was a scythe-like figure, so it wouldn't be used as much for stabbing. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Getting sidetracked. Okay, so since we were talking about the bolline, usually it's used to cut or inscribe candles or stab. If you guys are following me, I use the candle carvers to carve into my candles, or the hairpins, whatever, again, the rage bait thing, to carve into my candles. But in some traditional practices, that is what they use to carve. So the next thing we're going to discuss as a basic tool is the cauldron, right? They come in many different forms. Usually, traditionally, they are cast iron. Whatever it may be, when you have a cauldron, what I do recommend, if you're getting grabs from me, I send you Swiftlight charcoal. Now, granted, you can just have a straight little twig fire in here. It doesn't have to be this fancy. You don't need all these tools. But what I do recommend, if you are using the charcoal, is that you take some salt or some sand and you put a pretty thick layer in there first. And that just works as kind of like a layer between the charcoal and the metal, so it doesn't get piping hot. And these are quick light, so they're true to their name. If this fan won't mess me up, they quickly light. You see how it lit there for a second? See how it's lighting? There we go. And I'm using my fingers. Usually I give you guys little tongs. And the tongs can be used for many things. You can use it for lighting your papers, your spells. Sorry. And then you it gets to going like that. And we're going to let that burn until it starts to get ash on top and turn white. And when it starts to do that, you can, again, where a bowl comes in handy, have your herbs to the side that you're going to use in your spell work to put on top of it. You can have mini bowls, or you can have your herb mixture ready, already mixed together. So you don't have to have separate bowls for separate herbs. If you want to be fancy, you can. I often mix my herbs together in one bowl because I don't like carrying shit in and out like that. But so we'll let that get to going. So this is what it's starting to look like. This is about what it starts to look like when it's about to start turning white and you can use it. A little bit more around here needs to get reddish white, and then we'll be able to use it. So this is what it looks like when it's just about ready for you to go ahead and put herbs on it. So we're just going to wait a few minutes and then do that. Okay, so your charcoal is ready, your herbs are ready. And so what do you do with it? You just apply your herbs to your charcoal and you're using the smoke. So for example, we're using lavender. So it promotes peace, calm, prosperity. You can do things like waft the house to promote these things throughout the house. You can use a feather, you can use your hand, whatever. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can find a feather out and about and just take it home and clean it with alcohol. You can also, like, let's say you have myrrh and you want to consecrate or anoint some of your tools. You can run your Athame through it. And you can also do that to incorporate some of the correspondences and power into the Athame, if that makes sense. Yeah, petitions. You can also burn petitions. So this is papyri. We won't get into that. But you can also, write whatever, write a sigil or a rune, whatever your practice may be. And and then it'll get to burning. And while those words of power are burning, you can also use that smoke and imbue that power into different tools. You can imbue it into your candles, into your spell work. You're releasing it through the smoke and releasing that power. So that's kind of what you're doing there, and different ways you can use these. So I hope that was a good explanation. And let's just get into the cauldron and history of the cauldron a little bit. So the cauldron is a sign of, can be a sign of one, protection, but because it was often used back in the day, usually kitchen witchery for cooking, it was the hearth and home. So it has a strong connection to hearth and home. It also has a strong connection, any kind of cup figure like that, of to the womb, so germination, fertility. It is seen as a fertility symbol as well. So that is just some information about the cauldrons, one of your basic tools. And yeah, I'm trying to think of maybe some other ways that I use it. Oh yeah, I don't want to leave this part out. When you're finished, let's say this is all done, it's no longer hot, it's just ash. You just keep using the salt. The reason I like to use salt is because after it's all full and I've used my whole roll of Swiftlight charcoal, it's usually about the time I'm ready to clean this. So what I do is I just take my candle carver and I mix it together and I add some other herbs for protective properties. You don't have to, you can just mix it. The charcoal itself adds the protective and banishing properties you're looking for to make black salt. Black salt can be used in many different practices, and we will cover that in another video, but it is a protective salt you can use to seal barriers between you and other entities and energies you don't want around you, in spell work and many other different ways. So that is another reason I like to use salt at the bottom instead of like sand. But you can also have different kinds of sand. There is like a black sand, but again, a topic for another time. So next basic tool we're going to discuss is going to be the chalice. The chalice. So the chalice can often and is often used as a libation offering. So just like the bowl, you would put wines, juices, whatever kind of offering you're trying to leave to your god or goddess, ancestors, spiritual being, whatever it may be. So that's how the chalice is used. That being said, it represents the element water in Wicca. It depends on your practice what it's going to represent, but it is a common practice that it represents water. It also, in the tarot suit, represents emotions. So that's just some things and some information of how you can use a chalice. Don't come at me about my cute little Christmas one. I love it. It's tall. You don't got to be fancy. You can go thrifting and get cool tools. The best tools I have, I thrifted. So, yeah, that is the chalice for you guys. It's pretty simple. You just leave it there, and then people are like, well, what do you do when you pour the juice in? You just leave it there until it evaporates or turns to mold, whatever it is. Then you clean it out, and you can take signs from that, like, did it evaporate in a day, or did it go? Did they take that offering quickly? Did they discard it? Did it mold, or did do you see a sign? Do you see pictures? Things like that. You can take it as far or as simple as you would like to take it in your practice. I don't want to overwhelm you guys with these videos, so let's keep it simple. Next up for basic altar tools that I want to discuss are going to be your wands, right? Everyone loves to have a wand, Avada Kedavra, right? So the wand represents the element air, and these are my pretty wands. And how they're used in practice is obviously to point and use your energy through the point and cast your spells. You can point it to the moon to draw the energy from the moon and point it down into your spell work. You can use this to banish. You can do this to draw your circle of protection, to open it and to close it. Again, this is also used in banishment, so you can banish things. It's a very powerful banishing tool. So let's say you're trying to do a cord cutting, and this is someone you're trying to remove from your life. A wand would be a good tool to use to banish that person and to bring that correspondence within the spell work. It is a powerful tool of banishment. So you would want to use a wand. Most people think Athame, and they think that because it is a knife and they think cord cutting, let's cut. But again, remember, I told you, usually an Athame is not used for mundane tasks like cutting. It is used to direct power. So, yeah, if you were going to do that, you would use something like a bolline. And again, we will do a separate video on how there's different ways you can cast a circle. And I'm going to try to do a simplified version and not get all complex into it. You call to the four quarters, you cast your circle. That's going to be the basics of it. All right. So next up, we're going to discuss a censer. And I'm probably going to just add a picture of one because I don't have one with me right now for this video. So I'm going to use my cauldron. So basically, a censer would have strings attached, metal chains attached right here, and ideally right here. And it would lift this, and it would be able to like rotate. You guys, if you've watched my content, you've seen what a censer is because they come in my cauldron grabs, right? So for a censer, it's the same thing with the cauldron. You want to fill it with sand or salt, preferably salt because of the black salt. And you can put your charcoal disc, you light it the same way, you put it in there, you let it get white, and then you add your resin or your herbs and put your top, and you go throughout the house and you can cleanse and you can banish. It's a very powerful tool to use. I like to speak powerful words of invocations when this is happening. So I'm speaking out loud that these things need to leave my home, the things that I'm not allowing here, the things that can be here in peace, the portals I am closing, the doors I am shutting. So I speak all that power out as I'm going throughout the house or your ritual area, your circle. Oftentimes we've been talking about casting a circle a lot for someone who's not getting into it right now, right? So yeah, we're going to be casting the circle. After you cast the circle, you might go through with your censer and just kind of close any gaps, reseal, not really reseal, foundation it, resubmit the foundation, you know, and just kind of make sure that area is clear. It's just being extra, in my opinion. But hey, sometimes we love to be extra. So, yeah, that's what a censer is. I'm not going to go much more into that. Censers, when it's being used, can represents, because you're using incense and smoke, represents the element air. So if you're using a censer, you've got the element air covered. So last bit of tools I'm going to go over is going to be our divination tools. Now, I'm not going to go over every single divination tool because there are hundreds of different kinds of divination, from osteomancy, you know, it goes on. So I'm going to just discuss the ones that I practice and that are the pretty basics. So tarot. Tarot, we're not going to dive really deep into tarot or anything because that is a video for another time, and actually for hopefully another teacher that I have lined up for you guys. But tarot is a powerful divination tool. It is one of my favorites in being able to go into depth about present, past, future, what you need to change, pretty much any question you can ask. It can give you an answer and variations too. Things about tarot, sometimes decks have their own personalities, okay? They don't always sometimes tell you what you want to know. Sometimes they will not tell you. They will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And sometimes they have attitudes, sometimes they're smart asses, but you just got to get to know your deck, spend time with it, connecting with it, asking it simple questions, you know, having a sense of humor with your deck, you know, like, why the hell would you tell me that kind of shit? Like, oh, tell me that about them, you know, if you nosy and be asking about other people. Don't let me get up in your business and your practice. I'm not going to tell you how to do your practice. Some people say that's a breach of confidence, but I'm not here to tell you how you practice your practice. I'm just here to show you some of the tools for you to practice a practice. So tarot goes based off of the original Rider Waite deck, usually art, and so it has a standard set of meanings, each card. Some people believe in either, again, depending on your practice, on a set meaning. Some people believe in that there's a reverse meaning. I'm not here to tell you what is right and what is wrong. I'm just saying it is your choice when you go into learning about tarot. Now, this one is a deck I've had for a long time. You can see it's well loved, but this is a beginner's deck. So it will tell you everything you need to know on it, from the zodiac to, you know, death, water, Scorpio, control, organization, stability, and form, and then growth, always meaning you're leaving something behind. Things we know about death, right? Death isn't always a bad card. So, and then you have your major arcana and then your minor, and you have your seats. You have your suits, and in those, you have 4 of them. They represent different things. It's easier to remember when you know what they represent. You know, like we discussed earlier, that the chalice, the cup, represents emotions. The pentacle represents money. So when you learn those things about the suits, and then you can start to see the certain meanings within the pictures. So it's hard. And also on top of that, tarot tells you a story. It starts with cards ground zero, the Fool, and he goes through a lesson of life. And throughout that, he visits, you know, the other, like the lovers, you know, that goes through the face of the lovers, the heartbreak, the chariots, So that's my best explanation. And as far as I really want to delve into tarot, Oracle often asks how they're different, and I don't know if I'm the best to explain that. But Oracle is what I'm going to say is not like tarot in the way where you can ask it anything. So, for example, this is Dark Magic Oracle. So it's revealing kind of your light. So when I do a pull from here, I can't be like, am I going to be pregnant in a year? And it tell me, cocoon, consider your source. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be more delving deep within you, and it's going to be adapted to the kind of oracle deck you have. There's like past life oracle deck where it's going to discuss past life and things you need to change for your present. You've got things like ancestral oracle where you're just discussing straight your ancestors and what your ancestors need to tell you, and it's very direct and very specific in its reading. But oracle cards are valid. Divination for sure. And they come in handy, and they're fun because I like to collect mini decks. So Oracle decks give me that opportunity to collect different decks for different reasons. And again, I tell you, Oracles are the same in that the decks are different in personalities when you get to know them, you know? Okay. Next thing I will discuss is the scrying mirror. This is an obsidian scrying mirror. You don't have to have a real obsidian scrying mirror. You can make an obsidian scrying mirror. It's not real obsidian, but it is a scrying mirror. And what you do is you get a mirror and you take it off, and you spray paint the back of it black. If it's not one of the like see-through things, if not, you can just spray the front of it black, and you can use that as a scrying mirror. Or you can also do that to a picture frame. Take out the middle part of the picture frame, the glass part, and spray paint that black, and then put it back in, and you have yourself a scrying mirror. And I'll do a video on how we can do that. That'll be like a fun craft video we can do. And basically, with a scrying mirror, you get into a meditative state and you stare into it until you start to visualize, and you kind of clear your mind. You're not really, you could be after a certain goal, but you don't go into it into after a certain goal. You clear your mind first and kind of let the things come to you. And as they start coming to you, you'll learn how to discipline your mind and sharpen things and go towards your goal, seeing the things you're trying to see. Another good way for beginners with this one is to get a candle. This is a really good meditative practice. It's called candle gazing, and set it in front of your mirror. And it gives you a direct object to focus on. So you light the candle and you stare into your mirror at the candle. So you're staring at the candle through the mirror, and you focus your gaze on that, and you let yourself get into it. It allows you, staring at fire allows your mind to release more into a meditative state for you to be able to scry. Sorry, I keep staring at the mirror, but anywho, for you to be able to scry. And that is how you use a scrying mirror. You can also use a scrying mirror because it is a portal to call upon other deities, to call upon ancestors, to guide you, and to help you see what you need to see. Okay, and my last divination tool I will show you is going to be my set of runes. So my runes are specifically, there are different types of runes, different practices, different futharks. And mine are Elder, and they are based off. So these are specifically from the Germanic people of Northern Europe, before the younger futhark of the Anglo-Saxon. Again, I'm not here to tell you which one's right, which one's wrong, which one to practice. This is just what I've been practicing and what I am a little bit more familiar with. I like to mix and learn different practices, different sects, rather that be Hellenistic to Celtic to Nordic. I just like to learn different things and do different practices for divination. So yeah, for the runes, how I do rune pulls is I get my intention, my question ready in my head, and I take my first pull. And you can do this much like you do a tarot spread, a past, present, and future. Um, Oftentimes, I just do a 3 pull that has to do with the question. So whatever the question might be, like, what do I need to work on spiritually? This, reading could be telling me about, needing to travel, getting out of my comfort zone, watching out for protection, knowing that, it can mean a few different things, and you can have fun practicing with them. Practice makes perfect, learning what they mean. We have an awesome teacher that teaches rune classes, and she will be teaching more rune classes. I will also be doing a YouTube asking her questions. So if you guys have any questions about runes, the elder fruits are to be specific, actually just runes in general, any rune questions, go ahead and drop them down below in the comments. And I will write them down to ask her when I have her on the YouTube to ask her some questions. And she will be having another class soon, and I will be posting that on my platforms for you guys to know about. So yeah. I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, educational. Let me know if there's anything else I can do or I can cover for you guys. There's just so much I want to cover. I feel like, so I was like, let me just cover the basics real quick. Let's just go over the basics. So anywho, thank you guys for following me over here to YouTube. I love you guys as always, and bye.